Mia worked 3 grueling jobs just to keep a roof over their heads, all while her tradie husband supposedly suffered from a severe back injury that left him permanently glued to the couch. She had absolutely no idea that his tragic disability was nothing but a cynical, calculated lie cooked up so he could live off her hard work and mess around with his ex-girlfriend. But when a cheap, randomly installed pet camera caught his acrobatic stunts by the pool, a betrayed wife's ice-cold revenge sent the traitor straight behind bars. Mia's entire life was built on that simple, unshakable Aussie belief that families stick together through any storm. She grew up in a modest suburb in South Sydney, where people didn't whinge about the hand they were dealt. They just put their heads down and got on with the hard yakka. Her dad was a simple mechanic who worked himself to the bone his whole life to give his kids a shot at a better future. When her dad got seriously ill, her mum stepped up to provide for the family without a single complaint, proving to a young Mia that true love is forged in times of crisis. That deep loyalty and willingness to sacrifice for her loved ones became the unbreakable foundation of her character. She genuinely believed that marriage was a sacred partnership, a promise to stand by your mate through thick and thin. When she met Liam, a fit and charming chippy, Mia thought she had found her soulmate, a bloke with the same honest, working-class values. She figured his strong, calloused hands would protect her from whatever life threw their way. She dreamed of a quiet, cozy family life, a house with a nice backyard, and growing old peacefully together. So, 8 months ago, when Liam came home looking pale and claimed he had blown out his back from a falling steel beam on site, Mia's world turned upside down, but she refused to give up. He tragically claimed that the heartless insurance company had denied his WorkCover claim due to some stupid bureaucratic loophole. Suddenly, they were standing on the edge of a financial cliff, risking the loss of the house they had poured all their savings into. Without a second thought, Mia, being the devoted wife she was, took the entire financial weight of their household squarely onto her own shoulders. She wanted to be that indestructible rock for her husband, just like her mum had been for her sick dad. During the day, she worked as a receptionist at a packed medical clinic, dealing with dozens of patients. In the evenings, when normal people were relaxing with their families, she took on exhausting shifts at the supermarket checkout. And on weekends, to pay for her husband's expensive painkillers, Mia scrubbed other people's houses, working her hands raw with harsh cleaning chemicals. She would get home late at night, her legs practically giving way from the sheer, monstrous exhaustion. Despite all of that, she still found the strength to wash her husband's clothes, clean their house, and lovingly bring him meals in bed. Mia felt a deep, genuine pity for him. She would stroke his hair and whisper words of comfort while he groaned in fake agony, spending his days lying in front of the telly. She gave absolutely everything she had, her health, her youth, and her energy, to save the man she considered her only family. And it was exactly this crystal-clear, unconditional sacrifice that made the betrayal she was about to uncover so truly monstrous and unforgivable. The morning of that unbearably muggy Friday started with Liam's usual pathetic groans echoing from the master bedroom. Mia, barely able to keep her sleep-deprived, bloodshot eyes open, rushed over to her husband with a glass of water and a handful of pills. "Darling, my back is absolutely killing me today. I can't even roll over," he groaned, dramatically wincing and clutching his lower back. "Just hang in there, my love. I'll leave some food right here on the bedside table so you don't even have to get up," she replied gently, carefully adjusting his pillows. "You are an absolute angel," Liam sighed, looking into her eyes with fake devotion. "By the way, the physio called, and I need a special supportive back brace. Could you possibly transfer $300 to my account?" "Of course. I'm getting my advance from the supermarket today anyway, so I'll send it straight through," Mia promised, mentally crossing a much-needed pair of new work shoes off her own budget. Kissing her husband on the forehead, she headed off to her second job, completely unaware that his touching little theatrical performance would end the very second the front door clicked shut behind her. Later that day, standing behind the supermarket checkout in the stuffy store, she was scanning groceries when her co-worker asked sympathetically, "Mia, you look absolutely exhausted, mate. Shouldn't you take a sickie?" "I can't, Sarah. My husband is bedridden. "And without my shifts, we'll literally lose our house," she replied with a warm but incredibly tired smile. At that exact moment, her phone vibrated quietly in her uniform pocket, signaling a new notification. Just the day before, she had bought and set up a cheap security camera in the backyard to keep an eye on their senior dog while nobody was home. Mia had been so wrecked the night before that she completely forgot to mention this little electronic witness to Liam. Hiding behind the shelving aisles during a quick break, she opened the app, fully expecting to see the dog sleeping peacefully on the lawn. But what was broadcasting on the small smartphone screen made her heart skip a beat, and the barcode scanner nearly slipped from her weak hands. Her severely disabled husband, who couldn't even put his own socks on that morning, was jogging at a brisk pace across the yard. Effortlessly hoisted onto his shoulder was a heavy metal beer keg, and a wide, perfectly healthy grin was plastered across his face. Chasing right behind him, laughing cheerfully, was his ex-girlfriend in a revealing bikini, playfully splashing water at him. The camera's built-in microphone traitorously delivered their conversation with crystal clarity straight into a paralyzed Mia's earphones. "Are you sure your idiot wife won't be back before midnight?" the guest asked with a laugh, wrapping her arms around Liam's neck. "Don't stress, babe. She's working hard at the checkout right now to pay for this beautiful little party of ours," he replied smugly, dropping the keg onto the outdoor table. "You're an absolute genius, Liam, coming up with that bad backstory so I could come over every single day," the girl marveled, kissing his cheek. "Too right. Why would I break my back on a building site when my missus is happy to scrub floors for my comfort?" The traitor laughed arrogantly, displaying an absolute chilling lack of conscience. Following those sickening words, he easily scooped his laughing mistress up into his arms, twirled her in the air without the slightest hint of pain, and jumped right into the pool with her, making a massive splash. Mia stood there in the supermarket storeroom, feeling her boundless love and compassion instantly turn into cold, suffocating ash. Instead of calling her husband in tears and crashing his fun little pool party, Mia slowly sank onto an overturned milk crate in the supermarket storeroom. Her hands were shaking so violently that she could barely press the screen record button on her phone. She forced herself to watch this repulsive betrayal, saving every single second of his miraculous recovery straight to her device's memory. A heavy lump formed in her throat, and flashes of all those months spent scrubbing strangers' floors just to buy his expensive painkillers raced before her eyes. Every tender word she had whispered by his bedside now felt like a ruthless, calculated stab in the back. Mia buried her face in her hands, desperately trying to suppress the scream of despair and unbearable heartache threatening to tear out of her chest. But the harsh realities of life had taught her long ago that tears don't pay the bills, nor do they fix a shattered sense of justice. Taking a deep, steadying breath, she wiped her eyes, shoved the phone back into her pocket, and returned to the checkout with ice-cold composure to finish her grueling shift. That evening, when she finally stepped over the threshold of her home, she was greeted by a perfect, meticulously rehearsed scene. Liam was lying on the couch in the exact same suffering posture, covered with a throw rug, wearing an incredibly pathetic expression on his face. "Babe, you're home so late. I thought I was going to lose my mind from this agonizing back pain," he groaned weakly, reaching a hand out to her. It took every single ounce of Mia's self-control not to grab a heavy vase and smash it over this shameless liar's head. Instead, she silently handed him a glass of water and his pills, feeling nothing but a deep, piercing disgust for the man she had once loved. She waited until the dead of night, listening tensely as his steady breathing filled the dark master bedroom. The second he was sound asleep, Mia slipped silently out of bed, grabbed his laptop, and headed to the kitchen. She knew his password perfectly well, so getting into his email account was absolutely no trouble for her. Typing the word insurance into the search bar, she braced herself to see rejection letters. But what popped up on the screen left her frozen in mute shock. Sitting right there in his inbox were official letters from the state's WorkCover authority. Reading through the dry legal jargon, she realized his compensation claim had never been denied in the first place. It turned out Liam had already received a massive lump sum insurance payout of $150,000 months ago. This two-faced coward had simply transferred that massive chunk of cash into a hidden personal account she had no idea even existed. A further dive into the bank statements showed that he was generously blowing those funds on luxury hotels, fancy restaurants, and expensive gifts for his ex-girlfriend. While his lawful wife was destroying her back and scrubbing strangers' toilets to pay his power and water bills, he was living the life of a wealthy loafer. He hadn't just cheated on her physically, he had committed major financial fraud, turning her into his own free personal maid. The sheer scale of this criminal hypocrisy was so massive that the very last drop of love in Mia's heart evaporated forever. Her soul was instantly coated in impenetrable, ice-cold armor, and her thoughts became sharp, pragmatic, and highly calculated. She methodically forwarded all the documents, bank transfers, and WorkCover resolutions to her own hidden email address. The next morning, while on her lunch break, Mia cold-bloodedly contacted the insurance fraud investigators, handing over the irrefutable digital evidence. Then she dialed the number of the best family lawyer she could find to protect her home from this arrogant parasite once and for all. The trap had snapped shut, and now all she had to do was wait for the absolute perfect moment to fully enjoy the downfall of this despicable actor. 2 weeks later, Liam decided to host a backyard barbie for his mates, telling Mia that his doctor had suggested he get a bit of fresh air for his rehab. He even had the nerve to ask his wife to marinate the steaks and buy the drinks in advance, claiming it was just too hard for him to stand by the stove for that long. Mia carried out all his arrogant requests with a terrifying calmness, knowing full well that this little get-together was going to be his farewell party. She left for work, leaving him to enjoy the afternoon with his mates, who all genuinely believed he was suffering from a severe injury. Right at the peak of the party, as Liam was limping for show while flipping steaks on the BBQ and soaking up his mates' sympathy, the side timber gate suddenly swung open. Mia marched confidently into the yard, flanked by 2 uniformed police officers and a stern-looking agent from the insurance fraud investigation unit. The loud laughter of the guests instantly died down, replaced by an anxious, utterly confused whispering. Liam dropped his BBQ tongs, and his fake, relaxed smile vanished forever from a face that had just turned chalk white with fear. He tried to feign outrage, asking in a trembling voice what these people in uniform were doing on his property. Instead of answering, the agent pulled out a thick folder and showed Liam the printed stills from the security camera, clearly showing him effortlessly lifting a heavy keg and briskly jumping into the pool holding his mistress. The guests craned their necks in shock to look at the photos, realizing with absolute horror that their mate was nothing but a liar and a criminal. Then, the police officer officially announced that criminal charges were being pressed for the grand theft of $150,000. Mia slowly walked right up to her shaking husband, who now looked like a cornered, cowardly little boy. With absolute disgust, she threw a heavy envelope containing the divorce papers drafted by her lawyer right into his chest. "Did you really think I was going to mop other people's floors forever while you played the cripple and blew money on another woman?" she asked, loudly and clearly, making sure every single person present heard it. Liam tried to stammer out some pathetic excuse, but frozen by the sheer terror of impending jail time, all that escaped his throat was an incoherent wheeze. Mia added that, by law, he was now required to pay back every single stolen cent to the insurance commission. That meant he was going to be left without a cozy home, without a devoted wife, and with a criminal record that would permanently ruin his life. As the cold steel handcuffs clicked around Liam's wrists under the icy glares of his former mates, he suddenly burst into tears, finally grasping the absolute totality of his downfall. Not a single guest stepped up to defend him. People just turned away in pure disgust from a bloke who had so cynically scammed the system and his own family. With ice-cold dignity, Mia turned her back on this pathetic scene and headed inside the house to pack his remaining junk into the garage. She finally took a deep, full breath, feeling like an incredibly free and powerful woman who had just thrown a ruthless parasite right off her shoulders. Justice caught up with the traitor at the exact moment he believed he was completely untouchable. What would you have done in Mia's shoes? Would you have just filed for a quiet divorce? Or would you have taken it all the way to criminal charges and an arrest right in front of his mates? Make sure you drop your opinions in the comments below. We'd absolutely love to hear your take on this. Also, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel because we've got plenty more gripping, true-to-life stories coming your way.